Okay, so actually using the timeline for animation up here, if you want to have this box move across the screen, just in a simple animation, select up here, you can right click and then go insert keyframe, or press F6 on your keyboard. The shortcuts for your keyframes are really handy. You'll actually want to learn these really fast, and you probably will if you get in the habit of adding blank keyframes, regular frames, or keyframes. Let's move the symbol over to the right. If you want to lock it to going to straight right, just hold the shift key as you pull across, place it where I want it to end up. You'll notice if I go back and forward here, the box just jumps instantly. I don't want to do that. I want it to slide across the screen smoothly. If I click on the frame on the timeline here, just anywhere along here, you'll get up this menu. You'll get create classic tween, create motion tween. When working on objects, you'll get these two tween options here, create classic tween and create motion tween. If you're working on not objects, you'll get create shape tween. It's a different tween. You can do some quite impressive stuff with it, but it can be difficult to use at first. For right now, I'll just do create classic tween. And now you see the box has jumped. So what will happen is the box will actually slowly shift between the two locations. So if I just play this, we'll go from the left to the right and stop. If you want the animation to repeat when you're on the playback, just go up to the control here, go down to loop playback, click that, turn that on, and then you'll notice now when it finishes, the animation will repeat. Seeing as that's okay, but if I want the animation to go back and forth, select this frame, just copy, Control C, come over here, right click, go insert blank keyframe. If I just do Control V here, it'll just paste it in the middle of the screen. It's not really what I want to do. I want to do Control plus Shift plus V. That'll place it where it was. You can also do this by right clicking and then go paste in place, and you'll see the shortcut over here. Like I said before, you're best off learning the shortcuts as you go along. They're really handy and they'll save you tons of time. What I want to do now is I want to insert regular frame into this frame here. It'll actually extend this frame here. But I don't want to constantly right clicking and then going down, insert frame, insert frame, insert frame. If you right click on this, you'll see the actual F5 option here to insert frame, and shift F5 to remove frame. So I want to add frames, so I'm just going to click on this and then just click F5 a bunch. You can also select a section and then go do the same thing, go right click, insert frames, or just F5 on the keyboard again. It'll insert that many frames you've selected into it. And same for remove frames. If you do remove frames, it'll remove that section that you've selected out of the timeline. So again, I'm just going to right click, create classic tween, and you'll see the box has jumped again. So it's actually moving left and right. So I'll play that back. It's a bit fast, so if I want to make it slower, I can just insert some frames on this side. Because the frame rate is at 30, every 30 frames is 1 second, obviously. So if you've got it set to something lower, it might be running smoother left and right, but the animation can look choppy or slow, depending on what you have it set to. If you have it set to 60 or 120 or something like that, it'll run really fast, and it might look really smooth, but it also might run way faster than you actually thought. So just mess around with the frame rate and just see what works for you. Some people like to work in slower frame rates, some people like to work in higher. Over here, let's remove some frames, so Shift F5. Let's play that back to give an example. So moving very slow, and then it just comes back very fast. So just for starters, I just recommend messing around with the frame rate and just messing around with this, and you'll just get an idea about how the actual timeline works and how frames work. So if I just bring this over here, you'll see it does the opposite. It moves to the left really slow and then moves to the right very fast. If I'm working on something and I want to make this move across the screen, just like a tween, you want to convert it to a symbol. If you don't have it actually as a symbol, you'll get this. I can do create classic tween. In all the older versions of Flash, this wouldn't pop up. It's actually quite handy that it does pop up here. So what will actually happen is if I click this, it'll create two symbols here, or it'll call them tweens in the library. If I add another box here in the same spot, then create another classic tween, it'll do the same. It'll add another tween into the library. You really don't want to do this. This is a really bad way of animating. And if you're having lots of animation, you'll have your library just quickly fill up with tweens and you won't know what any of these are. So for example, if I just move this over here, or I can just put it down here, it doesn't really matter where I put it. You can see it looks like a classic tween. It operates like one, but the object isn't quite the same, and you'll end up with a messy library where you won't know where anything is. And it's a good idea to keep your library clean. And now, say for example, if I remove all of these, you'll see them all get removed. Seems fine right now. But if I add, say, this symbol here, and then add another symbol here, let's remove this tween really quickly. And then if I copy this symbol, or I have the same symbol here, but it's not actually a symbol, right click and break apart and turn it into a normal object. If I'm just quickly looking at these, I might think they're the same object. If I create a classic tween here, and if you also have this selected, this won't pop up, so you won't know this is coming up. Adobe Flash used to not have this not pop up, so you wouldn't know it would happen. This is actually pretty good that this does pop up. I would recommend not clicking this, not turning that on, because this is handy just to know. So if I select yes though, you think, oh yeah, this is okay, it's moving fine, the animation's going smooth, it's all working well. But then if you're cleaning out your library later on down the line, or you want to turn this into a symbol, you won't know where it came from. So it's like, if you have a library filled with symbols and then you want to find out where this came from, or you want to delete this, so if I delete this now, it just removes it from the timeline up here. And if you have a long timeline, or if this tween, for example, is actually within a symbol itself, it can be quite frustrating finding where that is, or removing something and then having your animation break for this reason. So you can just see it's just removed this frame up here, and now the animation is broken. So it doesn't know where to go, it doesn't know what to do up here. It's actually just acting as if this tween doesn't exist. So it's quite handy just to be aware that that's the case, especially if you're using Adobe Flash and you're not using Animate. That'll happen to you and you won't be aware of it, and then you'll have to fix your work later on, which can be really frustrating. I've done it quite a few times when I first was beginning, and I wish I knew about symbols and stuff more before I started. I'll probably make a video on symbols and objects themselves and the different tweening you can do, and also doing frame by frame animation compared to doing tweening animation. A lot of people just stick to doing animation with tweens, and it can seem okay at first, but it can look really unprofessional if you don't know what you're doing. And if you're just using tweens all the time, it can make your work look messy or unprofessional. But don't be afraid from using tweens, because they can be quite time saving depending on what you're working on. If you just need an object to move left and right like this, you don't want to be drawing 30 frames of it going across this whole section here by just doing the maths yourself. You want the software to be helping you with that. If you'd like to see any other advice or tips, please leave a comment and I'll either reply in the comment section or make a video about it. So that's it for now. I recommend just playing with the software. If you're brand new, just play with the software, mess around. I think that's probably one of the greatest things I learn, is just playing with the software and messing around and just having fun with it, because I've followed tutorials with like Unity and Illustrator and stuff like that, and following step by step, and then a week later I can't remember what I've learned. I found with Flash, just messing around with the software, and then when you have a problem, try and find it yourself. If you're really struggling with that, look up what you need, but then go back to messing around with the software, because it is quite a fun tool to use. You can do so many things with it, it's quite powerful. And if you can get your head around how the whole system works, it can be really fun when you're working on something that has multiple layers going on, or effects, or just seeing your final product come out and getting a good result. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions or want some advice, and I'll see you in the next one.